Sports cards is a lifestyle. Sports cards and we live now. Jeremy Lee in the building and every guest that you ever needed. Sports cards after hours keep the hobby heated. Updates, hobby talk like you never seen it. Sports cards live and none could ever beat it. Sports cards is a lifestyle. Sports cards and we live now. Welcome to another episode of Sports Cards Live with your host, Jeremy Lee.
And all right, here we go, everybody. Welcome to episode number 185 of Sports Cards Live. It is Saturday night, May the 27th, 2023, and my name is Jeremy Lee. I would like to thank Ken Cairns from Sports Card Lessons for joining us last time. Let everybody know tomorrow on the channel, 9:30 Eastern, is the PWCC Weekly Hockey Auction coverage with Josh Magadigan from the Hockey Cards Gong Show. Also on Tuesday, this Tuesday coming up, is episode 3 of Taking Stock. It's a new show that I'm doing in collaboration with the Sports Card Dad Network, featuring myself and Dennis Zender, also known as PC with DPZ on Instagram. You may know him from his collector series that he used to do on the Luca Tiger LeBron podcast and has now taken his act over to the Sports Card Dad channel. On episode 3, we will be taking stock of the issues concerning buying the card and not the grade. Please join over 300,000 people who have already downloaded the Center Stage app across both iOS and Android for quick comps and card management features. Their app is the fastest and most accurate at card shows or at home to help you price your cards, build, organize, and share your collection with your friends and find other collectors to follow using their new social sharing features. They've announced some exciting new partnerships, so check out their Instagram account for more information and join me in supporting the team they have there and the innovation they are undertaking. And also, use protection, everybody. Practice safe swaps. Veriswap is an app and middleman service that lets you securely trade cards through the mail. Every transaction up to $1 million in value is fully insured by their guarantee. To use Veriswap, upload your inventory, make trade, partial trade, or full cash offers, and negotiate with thousands of traders already on the platform. Check them out on iOS and Android. And as part of a special offer, your first trade on Veriswap is only $1. There's a referral link in the video description below. Also, be sure to check out Hobby News Daily for your daily dose of hobby news and entertaining content, a collaboration of various content creators and original writers, and just launched last month. They're doing a great job over there at Hobby News Daily. Shout out also Leighton Sheldon. He'll be joining us a little bit later. Leighton from Just Collect for our Vintage Spotlight segment. And as always, I like to do this. I'm not ever going to stop thanking everybody for tuning in, all of our loyal viewers and listeners. And if you are not yet subscribed to the Sports Cards Live YouTube channel, please take a moment and do so. All right, tonight's guest got started in the hobby in 1963, collecting CFL, that's Canadian Football League, cards from post-serial boxes. Aside from a short break between 1993 and 1997, he has been active ever since. He's a regular at the local trade nights here in Calgary. Yes, this collector is local to me. He ramped up his Instagram activity in 2018. His favorite teams are the Calgary Flames, Calgary Stampeders, and Team Germany for World Cup soccer. And his favorite athletes are Jerome McGinley, Steve Yzerman, Doug Flutie, and Lionel Messi. He's originally and currently from Calgary, Alberta. Let's bring him out. Al Gschwendtner, welcome to Sports Cards Live. And how are you tonight, Mr. G?
Well, thank you, Jeremy, for the great introduction. I'm doing well. Nice to see everybody out there. Hello, everybody. Looking forward to this.
All right. Well, it's Al. Listen, I mean, it's nice to have you. We go way back. I mean, we probably go back 15 to 18 years, I would say. We would have first met probably at the trade nights at Maple Leaf Sports here in Calgary. Our friend Darren Pollock, who runs that show, runs that card shop. He now runs a card show as well here once or twice a year in Calgary. But we would have met back at one of his trade nights. I mean, we've been though that went on for a good 10, 12 years. It used to be, what was it, the third Wednesday of every month, I believe.
I think you're right. Yes. Yeah.
But I guess just before the pandemic, he kind of stopped it and maybe has done a couple since. But that's definitely where I know you from. And we connected early on, and we've done trades together. We've helped each other out, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But as you told me the other day, you've also been watching Sports Cards Live since the very beginning, which it's hard to believe. You've put in a lot of hours watching this show, so I definitely want to thank you for that. And then you also mentioned that one of the things that you collect. So we're going to get right in. You also mentioned to me that one of the things that you happen to collect were the Topps 2020 cards, right?
Yes. Yeah.
I'm going to turn it over to you. Because listen, it's fun to think that you did that because of an episode of Sports Cards Live. Can you take us back to how that came about for you?
Sure. It was the episode with Barry Grice, and the two of you,
which was episode 10 of Sports Cards Live.
Yeah,
so that goes back a long time. It's about 3 years ago this month, probably.
Yeah. But the two of you started, I can't remember everything else in that episode, but I do remember about the Topps Project 2020. And it's baseball, for those of you that don't know. And I didn't know anything about it. I'd never seen it. So after I watched the two of you talk about it, quite enthusiastically, I might add, I decided to check it out on eBay and take a look. And I'll show you this. So what I ended up doing, for those people that aren't familiar with this, there were 20 artists and they all produced 20 cards. And they're all baseball cards. And so it would have been the same 20 players. They weren't just all random. There was 20 players that each of them did. So one of the ones that really caught my eye right away was this one.
Ted Williams. Is that JK5?
This is JK5. So what I ended up doing is building the set for him, all 20 cards, because I was really taken with his artwork. And I really love he does color ones too, which I don't care for as much, but I love the black and white. Here's another one.
Willie Mays.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then one more. I'll show you. Take it out of the plastic here. There we go. Mike Trout.
With just a little bit of color.
Yeah. But you can see he's got some sort of fantastical things happening here, like the lasers coming out of the eyes. And I mean, if you look at the Ted Williams one again, it's almost like there's a giant snake coming off of his waist there. I'm not quite sure what that is.
Yeah.
Well, and he's got apparently he has hidden messages in all of these as well, which I wasn't aware of until I started delving into it a bit more. And I found some sites where they talked about all these hidden messages, which was fascinating.
So one of the original episodes got you into that. So I have to ask, Al, because the Topps 2020 thing, I mean, it was really a phenomenon in the hobby there. Those cards went like from here, nobody knew about them. And then all of a sudden they spiked huge because there were some short printed cards from the 2020 series. And then they've seemingly not gone away because they have done subsequent sets using the same theme and the same model. But I don't hear until I talked to you, I hadn't heard anybody was really collecting the Topps 2020 cards in a couple of years. So my question to you is, how do you feel about it? Like, and this is an interesting point because, a lot of content creators like myself, a lot of us, we don't want to influence people on what they buy. We want to inspire and give ideas and that kind of thing. But it's apparent that episode did influence or inspire you to go and purchase cards. And listen, you're a favorable example because you're not going to say anything bad about it. I just know you too well. But how do you feel now, 3 years later, about being influenced by an episode of this show to go out and buy those cards? And I mean, thankfully they weren't very expensive. But what are your thoughts now about your collection of Topps 2020 cards and how you came to pick them up?
Well, I enjoy them for a lot of the artistic value more than financial value of them. And when you say thankfully they weren't very expensive, I'll just correct you. There were a few that were. So this Ted Williams one, this was the one I really, really wanted, but it wasn't one of the first ones I got because it was very, very high. I remember watching a few of these auctions, and the one that I remember most vividly was up around $900. Yeah, and it, I mean, over time it dropped way down again, right? But at the time, I thought to myself, I'm never going to get one of these cards because I'm not willing to pay that much. But thankfully, they did come down.
And once it came down, that's when you purchased that copy.
Yeah, it's still my most expensive one out of all the cards that I've got. I think I have something like 105 total cards because I got the full set for JK5, but I also made sure that I got at least one card from each of the other artists. I wanted to have a representation for the whole group. And then there were a couple of other artists that became favorites as well that I got more from.
That's nice. It exposed me to a lot of new art as well. After Topps 2020 finished, then they did, I forget what the next one was called, 70 or something like
70.
that, or 70. Did you continue to purchase cards from the subsequent releases or the subsequent artist sets that they put out?
No, but with a caveat. I didn't go for the 71, but I did go for some of these. So I don't know.
What is this?
So this is, so JK5 made what he called companion cards. So it was kind of like after the series had gone through, you could go to their website and they were still creating cards along the same theme. So this is Mike Trout as an angel.
Right.
Okay. So
yeah, I was aware. I think a lot of the artists did companion cards because I think they just wanted to really grow their personal revenue from the project. They had all these new fans all of a sudden, all these new customers buying their Topps 2020 cards, where they were only getting a cut of it because Topps needed their cut. And I guess they put out these companion pieces, which they could receive 100% of the revenue from. So it made a lot of sense for them.
Yeah. And then I just wanted to show you one more here because this is probably my second favorite artist, Andrew Thiel. And his were called heritage cards. So this is the thing that came with it. And this is what his looks like.
And who's that? Is that anyone in particular?
Or? No, I don't think so. It's like a Sandlot thing, I think.
Oh, yeah.
With him, I think it was more inspired by locations rather than people. So I think this was kind of a representation of a Sandlot and kids playing baseball.
Yeah, that's a nice. It's nice. It's a piece of art like that can really trigger your memory and your emotions for various things. And then I also wanted to chat. I wanted to thank you. You reached out to me a couple months ago and said, I've got, because I had shown some Star Wars stuff that I had dug out from many years ago. And you said that you had one of the original Millennium Falcons, and you said, I want to give this to you along with some figures, and you did. And you can't see them, but the figures are actually sitting on this shelf. You can't see them, but they're behind a couple of cards there. I can see them when I come in here, but they're standing up there on that shelf right there. My little guy always wants the Chewbacca, but I won't. I'm going to go buy him a new Chewbacca. I think that was one of the originals back there. So I want to thank you for that. That was a kind gesture. And then for everybody, I did meet Al for lunch locally, bought him some lunch, and we had we had a nice time sitting together and talking hobby, which is always fun to do with Al. He is quite passionate. Let's go to some comments. Al, Terry Fortune is in the house. Looking forward to this one. Collector episodes are my favorite. You're not alone, Terry. YYC, what is going on? Yes, Al has some. I was looking at your Instagram today, Al, and I'll throw it up in the ticker in a minute here. But your Instagram mentions that you have, I think it says over 3,900 Iginla cards. Is that yeah?
That's true.
But I did a count cards.
I did a count the other day. So I keep track on Sports Cards Forum's inventory manager because it does an exact count for me, but it doesn't include President's Choice cards, and I've got about 30 of those. So I'm up around 3,949, something like that.
Well, you're coming up on 4,000. Very interesting. Lapper is in the house. What is going on? Aaron, good to see you. Jeff McMahon, good to see you. Jake Dahl is here. Mitch is here. Been looking forward to this one. Al is what pops up when you look up true passionate collector in the dictionary. Very true, Mitch. Very true. Mike from Eastridge. That's one of our other local card shops here in Calgary. So you're well familiar with Mike at Eastridge. Brett Miles, another local collector, is popping in. Good to see you. Says Al is a collector I've admired for years. Positive person, passionate collector.
Thanks,
Cheers,
man.
and good to see you. Brett, the professor, is in the house. Looking forward to you both sharing your wisdom. You can program a bot with knowledge but not wisdom, so you both are safe from being replaced by a bot. Thank you to the professor. Collector's Dream, what's going on? And Professor, were some of the Topps 2020 cards special release? Not the original 2020. Those were all purchased directly from the Topps website. They released them in waves once a week. They released, I think, 2 or 3 or 4 of them, and you could buy 1 or 2 or 3 of them, whatever it was. Anything you'd like to add to that, Al?
Yeah, they had group rates, which is why I sometimes I would get if it's something I really liked. Like I was looking the other day when I was pulling these out, and like Frank Thomas, I think I've got 5 of his for some reason, and I think that's what happened. The group rate cut the price per card down substantially.
That's right. If you bought 1 of each, they were like $20. If you bought 5, I think you can get them down to $16 each or something like that. Yeah. That's kind of how that worked. Chad Shipper is here. What's going on? Chad says, love the collector shows. Philly Joe is in the house. Mitch says, Al doesn't even know he has a hobby fan club. Well, Al, I was in looking at your Instagram today. I also noticed that you have over 1,500 followers on Instagram. I mean, that's pretty good for a collector who doesn't necessarily have a business in the hobby or is a content creator, although we will get into some of the content that you are involved in now very, very soon. Shark Cities, love seeing hockey player collectors. IPC Sergei Fedorov in wings and Russian uniforms. And in the States, people at shows think I'm crazy when looking for cards of his I don't have. That's funny, Shark City. Just today, and I'm going to tell this story when we get to that topic a little bit later, but today a collector reached out to me to talk about a different card and the set that the card came from. I said, is there a Fedorov in that set? And he said, yes, there is. So I understand when it comes to, I understand the allure to collecting Sergei Fedorov. There's a lot of nostalgia being that, I don't know if, Al, you probably remember the first Upper Deck Hockey release, 1991. Mm-hmm. Sergei Fedorov was the hit. I mean, there were a lot of great cards in that set, but Sergei Fedorov was definitely the hit in that first product. So let's get into what you do collect, and we're going to get into the hockey soon. But you're a diverse collector, Al. You don't only collect Jerome McGinley cards. You don't only collect hockey cards. You don't only collect hockey and soccer cards. I think that is where you pretty much limit yourself with some baseball dabbled in as well. But let's talk about some of the other things you collect, because it's interesting and it really rounds you out as a collector, as a Calgarian, and if you're not from Calgary, which most people watching are not, although we'll probably have a few extra here tonight. But if you're not, you can still identify with what Al's about to show us and tell us about, because I have to think that in your city, wherever you are, in whatever country you are in, and we do reach basically every country in the world with this show, believe it or not, that you will identify with it because there are things going on in your city that are unique to your city. And Al has really tapped into his local culture and sporting scene. So Al, what would you like to touch on first among your other collecting pursuits besides cards?
Well, I'll look at the stamps a little bit. I wanted to be cognizant too of our time and everything. If you let me, I could probably take 4 hours showing all this stuff. I love doing this, but so I've only got a few things.
I'll keep the whip going here. Yeah.
So I started collecting stamps when I was probably about 10 years old. That's back in the 60s. I used to get the mail order approvals from about 4 different companies. My dad had a colleague at work who would get correspondence from Europe and cut the stamps off for me, and he would bring them home. So that kind of got me going. So I know a lot of people, they might think, oh, stamps are boring. There's not much to it. But I have subscriptions to both Canada Post and Royal Mail, which is the United Kingdom. So I've got, this is called a presentation pack.
X-Men.
And X-Men, yeah. So there's all kinds of different topics that they cover. And then there's the back of it. And then inside of this, there would be all kinds of details about who created the stamps, when they were released, all that kind of thing. And then this is called a miniature sheet.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. So I've got about 30 years worth of those from Royal Mail.
Wow. And I just want to say, so being a card collector, we have our mail days, and we often buy cards from all over, I don't say all over the world, but we are buying them from North America and Europe and Asia. And in my last job, our paralegal, she collected stamps. And when I caught on to that, I used to, anytime I'd get a mail day and I would get them shipped to that office, I would cut it out and leave her stamps on her desk at the end of the day. And she'd come in the next morning very happy. It was a great way to earn some points with a key person in our operation. So it reminded me of that when you told me that your dad's colleague used to do the same for you. It's one of those things that is easy for you to do if you know a stamp collector, and it's really nice to do. So that's really cool. Please continue.
And I think it had an influence on me as well, because why would I pick Royal Mail? I'm not quite sure, because a lot of the stamps that he was getting were from England and Scotland and that area, and I found them to be very colorful, and a lot more interesting than Canadian stamps at that time, actually. So one of the other things that I collect is ancient coins, and in particular Roman coins with Jupiter reverse, it's called. So Jupiter is the king of the gods for the Romans. He would be equivalent to Zeus for the Greeks. So the coins themselves, if I held one up in my hand, it wouldn't wow anybody too much. So what I did is I made some book creator pages. And
yeah, we can see that. Yeah.
Okay. So that's one. And then there's this one. And these are like this one is from 218 to 222 AD is when he was ruling. So
1800 years ago.
100 years old. And,
wow.
And this is why I find it fascinating, because to know that at some point, maybe this was part of a soldier's pay, Yeah.
So. I saw somebody someone I follow on Instagram, and my Instagram, the people I follow are almost exclusively card accounts. And someone posted, I think it was yesterday, the day before, in their story, they posted their first shipwreck coin. Now,
yes.
I find shipwreck coins to be very interesting. I've never owned an ancient coin or a shipwreck coin, but I could see the allure to it. What is are you interested in shipwreck coins? Have you ever had one? Are you strictly looking for ancient kind of Roman Empire type of coins? And again, I might be not making sense right now because I don't know much about it. But
you are. I know about shipwreck coins. I've seen them in the past. I don't really have an interest in them so much. For me, I've got a Bachelor of Arts in History from university, and I also minored in classics. So for me, Roman history is right up there with medieval history for me. Those are my two passions, right? So reading about the books by Tacitus and Suetonius, I know half the audience is going, who? What?
Half of the screen here does it.
10 Caesars. It's all about the first 10 Caesars. Fascinating stuff. I mean, the Housewives of New York or whatever is on TV has nothing on the Caesars. Believe me, these guys were off the top. So
yeah, right on.
I'll just show you this real quick too.
Sure.
Back in the 90s, this is where I was getting most of my coins from. So it's called Coin Galleries, but it's a division of Stax. It's out of New York.
Okay. Cool. So let me ask this then. When is the last time you added a stamp to your collection, and when's the last time you added a coin to your collection?
Well, I'm constantly adding stamps because I have those subscriptions. I've got something else to show you after this too, which I'm adding to constantly as well. So they're not really dormant for me. That I keep those active.
And what if we were to then take your overall collecting pie and divide it into like a pie chart? what percent is sports cards and what percent is everything else?
Oh boy.
Take a guess.
I think I probably have to go 60% other stuff, 40% sports cards.
Wow.
Mainly,
I was expecting it to be much more heavily weighted to sports cards, just from what I know, just from my interactions with you over the years.
it's just because with the sports cards, I'm more specific. Like with the stamps, it's just anything and everything that comes out for that year. I get it.
Right.
Right?
Okay. Well, you do the same thing for Jerome McGinley, so.
Well, true. I try.
Yeah. All right. Before you get into the next thing, I want to go to a few more comments here. Matt from the Essential Credentials podcast and YouTube shows and hockey Instagram collectors round tables says, good evening. Excited for this one. Good to see you, Matt, as always. Card Collector 1998 has a Calgary Flames logo there. Looking forward to the episode. Mark Santucci, what's going on? SSP Joel, new to Calgary. Nice to meet you, Al. Who knows? You've probably seen him at somewhere already. Mark Santucci likes your Calgary Flames hat, Al. Willie T wants to know, does Al collect hockey stamps?
Well, I have some. Yes, the Canada Post did put out those large ones a few years ago. So I do have some, but minuscule amount.
Yeah, there's not many of them. And then Al, you are a retired school teacher. That was your career. You taught school. Matt, who's also not retired, but is a school teacher, says, I have to imagine the stamps and coins got Al interested in history and then teaching after that as a question.
I think I was interested in history way before I got into the coins. I just find it fascinating. I love reading, like medieval history is my main area. I love that.
History is very, very interesting to see what brought us here. What happened on Earth up until today. To the extent that it is documented.
Yeah. See, I started collecting the ancient coins in about 1989. Okay. So, and I was already teaching well before that. So,
all right. Well, Jake Dahl says some of the coins Al has could have been around when Jesus was alive.
Yes. Yeah. Tribute penny, Tiberius. Yeah, I've got one of those.
That's crazy to think about. Brendan Ryan, welcome, says ancient Turkish coins are nifty. Do you have any of those?
No.
Professor says, did Al get the Royal Mail James Bond stamps?
Yeah, if it was issued, I've got it because I get all the issues that they have every year. And I also get the year-end books that they send in December or January, whenever it is, but I get those too.
Very cool. Collector's Dream says, here in South Florida, Key West, we have a store where they sell coins from the Atocha shipwreck. When was, you know how to say it, Al? When was the Atocha shipwreck discovered and when did it sail? Do you know?
I'm going on a foggy memory. I think it's early 18th century, like I'm 1715, 1720, I'm thinking. Wow. Not 100% sure there. When was it discovered? That was that guy Mel, somebody or other, I think. Probably about, oh God. I don't know. It was in the 20th century that it was discovered.
Yeah, interesting. Well, thanks, Collector's Dream. All right. Well, okay. So there's one more sort of category of collecting that you do before we move on to cards, and that has to do with the Calgary Stampede. Which, if anyone hasn't heard of the Calgary Stampede, I believe it's the biggest rodeo in the world on an annual basis. Is it not the biggest rodeo in the world, Al?
Well, they bill themselves as the greatest outdoor show on earth. That's their catchphrase. So I'm assuming it would be.
I wonder what's that event, Burning Man, that goes on in California or Nevada desert every year. Burning Man might be the biggest outdoor show on earth now, but because I live in Calgary, I know it's contained to a certain area in our city. But it's definitely a huge event. My understanding, listen, Calgary is about 1.3 million people. Yeah. Back when we were 1 million people, I remember hearing that the population of our city doubled for those 2 weeks in July during the Calgary Stampede. We get 1 million people extra in our city from like July 5th to 15th or whatever that is. So it's a crazy time here. I usually like to leave town. It gets so crazy in Calgary. But what is it about the Stampede that you love, and what is it that you collect?
I think for me, it connects me to my roots. I'm born and raised in Calgary. I can still remember as a youngster going to Stampede parades. And in those days, I mean, we would get up at 6 o'clock in the morning. We'd grab our lawn chairs and go down there and stake out a spot on the sidewalk. It wasn't as organized as it is now. Now they have those sort of grandstands, and you have to purchase ahead, and you have a saved spot. Back then, it was like first come, first serve. And I just remember, and I'll admit this, I still watch the Stampede Parade on TV every year.
Yeah, it's you know what? I haven't been to it for a few years, but I used to have my two goddaughters living with me in from 2005 till about 2008 or so, and they were young. And this is actually an instance where being a godfather kicked in for me. This is a very personal story, but my best friend passed away in 2005, and his wife and two kids actually moved into my house for a year, 2 years, and then they bought the house 3 doors down from me here in Calgary. And I used to take those little girls to, early morning on that Thursday or Friday, whenever it is, to the Calgary Stampede. And those are the only times I'd ever actually gone downtown and sat in the temporary bleachers that they put up and taken it in. So there's all sorts of pancake breakfasts everywhere, all around the city during that time. It is a major event here in Calgary every year. But what is it about it that, first of all, two things I want to ask you, Al. First of all, historically, when did the Calgary Stampede start? And then, please, what do you collect that connects you to the event?
I believe it started in 1912. Guy Wiedek was the one that started it. I went with my kids when they were young, and I've always enjoyed the rodeo. There's many times we would go and sit at the rodeo. Another one of the things I still like to watch is the chuck wagon races, because I find them to be quite exciting. And so from that, I guess I got into collecting the covers, the Stampede covers. It just appealed to me, to link the two together.
So what is a Stampede cover? I've never heard of collecting covers, maybe comic book covers or cover art, but what is a cover, Al?
So if I show everybody something like this, they might say, oh yeah, that's an envelope. Well, yes, it is an envelope, but it has certain things on it. So it has a cachet on it, which is from the Calgary Stampede Post Office. They had actually had a post office down there for many, many years. The earliest cover that I have is from 1935. And again, when I get stuff like that, it sort of leads me down that rabbit hole, and I start researching and looking into things, and I discover stuff that I didn't know. So that's another benefit to me for collecting these things. The other thing is there's lots. I mean, you know me, Jeremy, I'm a set collector at heart. I like finding variations and different things, putting them together. So here's another one. And it's the same as this one, but you'll notice it's different, right?
Sure. Yeah.
So, yeah, I know. For most people, it's not a big deal. For me, I love stuff like that.
And now, is there like a community of people that collect these Stampede covers? Do you have Stampede cover buddies that you trade with or that you source from? Is there a community on Instagram that deals has these things? Or I'm sure it's a lot more. It's a narrower collector base, seeing that it's really specific to rodeo collectors or Calgary collectors.
I do have a local source here that I've become very good friends with. He's been over to my house many times. Dave Freeman. He won't be watching because he just had surgery the other day. He's on eBay, and he sells Stampede covers. That's how I first discovered him. And then he offered the first time to bring them up. And I said, well, okay, if you really want to. And then we became friends, and we sort of go back and forth with information for each other. One of the ones that I'm proudest of is this one.
And why?
Okay, so this From what I've been told, this cover actually belonged to King Farouk of Egypt at one time. It was presented to, I'm not sure if it was to him or one of his representatives, probably one of his representatives, at the 1947 Stampede. It has the following autographs on it. Okay, Premier of Alberta, Ernest Manning, Mayor of Calgary, President of the Calgary Stampede, Managing Director of the Calgary Stampede, District Post Office Inspector, and Philatelic Society of Egypt official. So this is going to be like, this is a one of one. You're not going to find another one like this.
That's really cool. I mean, it's really cool considering that I don't collect it. I'm only interested in it because you're sharing it tonight and it is interesting. And that's enough to think, wow, that's a neat piece. And it just goes to show, like, there's collectors out there for all sorts of different things. And, you know, we call sports cards the hobby, as if there's no other hobby out there, right? I see Leighton's laughing in the back room right now, but that's what it is. We consider our hobby to be the one and only, but it just isn't the case. There are other things out there. And some of us as sports card collectors are dabbling in other areas. And it's not only going to be dabbling in things like photos or memorabilia or video games or comics. It can be Stampede covers and ancient coins and stamps still to this day. Brendan Ryan says Windows mites are an affordable entry coin for new collectors. Thank you, Brendan. Philly Joe says, at first thought, I thought you were going to be talking about the football team, the Calgary Stampeders. That's right. No. That's the name of our Canadian Football League team here in Calgary. And Mark Santucci, that is right. Calgary has probably 500,000 more people than Winnipeg does. All right, Al, it is that time during the episode where we do what I refer to as the Vintage Spotlight segment. I even have this, Leighton, check this out in the back, this nifty banner to put up across the top. Now it's going to disappear when I bring Leighton on. Watch this. Oh no, it puts it on top of you and me, Al. So I'm going to take it off so we're not, we got to duck down now. I got to get that figured out, Leighton. But Leighton, good to see you again. I love seeing you every Saturday night. You come in, we do the Vintage Spotlight. I did prep Al to come with a question for you, which he does have, but is there anything going on in your world right now that you'd like to start off with?
You know, first, thanks for having me, Jeremy. Second, it's really great to connect with you, Al.
Thanks.
You know, we're having wonderful weather here in the Northeast. I don't have my son this weekend, but he's out visiting the Boston area with his mother. And I got a really cool picture of him today. He went to Fenway Park for his second time ever, on a tour. And, he was trying to talk to me a little about baseball, and it was really cute. So as far as, on a personal note, that's what's going on. And as far as, professional, at least what I hear, whether it be it's a combination of people talking about who's Fanatics going to buy next and or the Nationals right around the corner. So kind of pick your topic you'd like to discuss. For me, I don't really worry that much about what Fanatics is going to quote unquote do next. Just because, I don't think that's a really healthy way to be. I don't mean just professionally, just, you can't worry about the surrounding things going on. You just got to do the best that you can, for you and your team. Yeah. But that aside, very, very excited about the National. It's a wonderful time of year, as you know, Jeremy, not just to buy and sell, to acquire things for your collection, but really to reconnect with old friends that you might only see on an annual basis. So that's kind of what's going on in the short term. And as far as, collections, it's wild. We're about to, it looks like, close on that Tito 06 deal that we had shipped into us with over 450 Tito 06s that have been in the same family since basically they were issued. However, the twist on that collection I wanted to share today, and it goes to show you really have to be flexible, whether it be you're a dealer, whether it be you're a collector or an investor. So this individual shipped in all the cards, and of course, he might want to keep the Cobb and the 2 Cy Youngs. Mm-hmm. And so even though, of course, we want to buy them, he explained to us, hey, I thought it'd be worth more money. We're like, no, listen, we'll give you the breakdown. He's like, no, I believe you. I was just hoping it would be worth more money. So actually what he asked for and what we were happy to do, we're actually getting the 3 cards graded, because he understands that even though he doesn't really get grading, he just sees a Ty Cobb and a 5 is worth this. His Ty Cobb's like a 1.5. It's a red portrait. And so rather than kind of go back and forth, we basically have a written agreement that we're going to grade the 3 cards for him, and he's going to sell the rest of the collection no matter what. But those 3 cards might be in question as far as what he's going to do with them. And so my point is you have to be flexible. So think about that going into the National, right? You might want to only, sell cards for cash. But if you're open to someone trading you a card or a few cards and money, even though you don't want to do that, you might come away better off than when you started. So just, be open-minded. You never know what's going to, happen. So
yeah,
that's what's going on for me.
That's a good point. Interesting to hear what you're up to. I always love to hear, but you are the professional baseball card treasure hunter. And I love saying that. So we're talking about the National, and you heard what Al was talking about because you came in about 5 minutes before I brought you on. So we were talking about, he's just getting a phone call. He'll be right back. Oh. That's probably why we've just, there he is. He's back. So,
sorry, I was getting a phone call. Yeah.
So you heard what we were talking about before I brought you on, where Al collects some oddball items, let's call it, like these Calgary Stampede covers. The National is a place where you can find things like that you might not find at your local card shop or your smaller regional card show, that kind of thing. So what can you tell us, Leighton, and maybe any sort of like advice or experiences you've had at the National coming across some of those interesting items?
Thank you.
Did you catch that?
Sorry, I was just breaking up for a second. I had to grab something downstairs. So, as far as like when you're going to the National, if you're looking for something difficult, like what Al's looking for, because it doesn't seem to be that common, I think you have to consider how big the actual National is. So, for example, as much as you might be in the market for like a Mickey Mantle 52 Topps or a Tito 6 of Ed Walsh or whatever the case is, you got to keep in mind, they won't sell out of those at the show. But Al probably knows there's not going to be too much Calgary Stampede memorabilia there.
No.
So the point is, if you're going there, Jeremy, and you have like a rare hockey piece of memorabilia or card you're looking for, as much as you might be looking to complete your Bobby Orr run, I'd probably punt on the mainstream stuff, and I'd really keep an eye out for that special one-of-a-kind piece. Because I would tell you, even though Al said that, he has the sources and, everyone is, nice in his community, let's be honest, right? Jeremy, if I see a Michael Jordan photo that I want to show, I'm not going to like text a buddy and see, what he thinks or like take a chance I'm going to lose it or, maybe he wants it. Like if I like it, I'll buy it. And if I don't want it and I think a friend might want it, I also share it with them. But I think, as far as the National goes, that there might only be one of those at the National. You have to kind of work hard to get that. So my advice is when you're walking around, especially the first time, even though it's great to shake hands, or kiss babies and, have fun, I think you need to be focused if you're going to try to be serious about acquiring something that is either difficult or rare to find.
Yeah, I agree. I always like to say when you get to because a lot of other people will say when you get to a card show, your strategy is scope it out, pick the 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 items you want, but don't buy right away and then decide which one you want, circle back and go back to that table. Well, that only works if it's an item that nobody else wants, because otherwise it's going to be gone in the first half of the show, the first half day of the show. I always say, if you see something that you've been looking for that is rare, you got to snap that up because you don't want to risk it not being there. Al, you've been to local shows here. I don't think you've been to the National. I don't even think you've been to the Toronto Expo, but you did come to the Edmonton Expo a couple of weeks ago. I saw you there. You were there with Sal. We hung out. It was good to see you guys. Sal's, another collector here out of Calgary. But what is your experience, Al, being at shows and kind of that whole, especially where when you're going to a local show, Al, you're not the only Jerome McGinley collector. You're not the only Flames collector. So how important has it been for you to like get it before somebody else does?
Well, I want to jump in with what Leighton had just said about the National with regard to Edmonton Expo. So Sal and I went up on the Friday. We got the 3-day passes. We went in early on the Friday before the doors even opened to the public because we get in early. I probably spent 2/3 of what I spent for the whole weekend.
Yeah, before the door was even open to that was the VIP early half hour sort of thing. Yeah. Yeah, and because you could have waited till Sunday, but you weren't willing to take that risk. Is that kind of where what your mindset was?
Basically, yeah. And I mean, like you had said, it was my first Expo. And I knew that it was going to get busy, and Saturday was extremely busy. I mean, it was tough walking up and down the aisles on Saturday. So I just figured, you know what? I see it. I like it. I've got my budget. It's in the budget. Go for it.
Grab it. Don't wait. And, and it was a small enough show. It's not like the National, which, covers several acres. It was not like that where, you couldn't cover the whole floor in about half an hour. You probably could have skimmed over and, looked into every showcase in, well, maybe not half an hour, maybe 45 minutes, but that's a lot better than the National, where it could take you a full, probably at least a day just to look into every showcase on the show floor. And I understand this year it's going to be even bigger. Al, did you come with a question for our friend Leighton?
Sure. So I'm a child of the 60s. I enjoy, outside of my PC, I enjoy collecting players from the 50s and 60s. So as an example, this is there we go. So this
500
is the stick
gold
rack.
Stick rack, yeah.
500 gold stick rack with Richard, Howe, and Hull. Now, I know you're more into the baseball. I was watching baseball in the 60s as well. Sandy Koufax, some of those. So if I was looking for a couple of players from that era in baseball, who would you recommend? Who do you see at reasonable prices?
From the 1960s?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of belief, and I'm just going to start with rookie cards, right? So who are the key rookies from the 60s? And I didn't know what you're going to ask, but I could do this off the top of my head. So in 60 is Yaz and McCovey. In 61, it's not exciting. It's Billy Williams and Ron Santo. In 62, it's Lou Brock and Gaylord Perry. And I'll stop at 63 because that's the first big one. It's Pete Rose. So a lot of folks, at least in the circle of people that I, talk to about baseball, forget about cards, a lot of people believe that Pete Rose will be elected to the Hall of Fame after he passes away. I don't like to be morbid. I don't know if it's true. I have no idea. But I would say, Al, if you're a Pete Rose fan, and remember, as much as Pete Rose is not in the Hall, this is what I always try to explain to folks. Pete Rose, his card values, yes, he's the all-time hit leader. He's had a lot of ups and downs in his life. So just imagine if it costs thousands of dollars to buy a nice 7 and even more to buy, of course, an 8. Well, his value is going to explode if he makes the Hall. Not necessarily because he's any more popular, but because of a lot of folks who never thought he'd make the Hall of Fame, who need that high-grade rookie to complete their PSA registry Hall of Fame,
or any grade for that matter, right? I mean,
it could be any grade. It doesn't have to be high grade.
Yeah.
Yes, all of a sudden $1,000 3 might become $1,500, Al, or $2,000. So I'm not suggesting you should speculate, but if you were in the market for one of the best hitters of all time, and certainly one of the most popular players from that era, meaning the 60s, I don't think it's a bad bet right now to buy a Pete Rose rookie, meaning whatever grade you're looking for, Al, because I don't think it's going to go down too much, but I do think it could go up a bunch, potentially after he passes on. And so, as far as a rookie card goes, that's what comes to mind as you kind of step through the rest of the 60s. 64 doesn't have an exciting rookie other than Phil Niekro that I know off the top of my head, Tony Leva. 65, of course, Steve Carlton and Joe Morgan, and they're both great. 66, Jim Palmer. 67, Seaver and Carew. Listen, if you can get a Seaver or a Carew rookie, and actually, if I had I guess to be fair, I own both, but like lower grade for my collection, I like to full disclosure. I actually think the Rod Carew rookie should be worth more. And the reason being is, even though he may not have been as well known as prolific as Tom Seaver, this might sound hokey, but Rod Carew's been in a song, right? Everyone knows he's the Jew. So to me, as far as he's a great hitter, he's in the high number series, it doesn't make much sense to me how the Seaver rookie is really worth that much more than the Carew. So maybe the Carew rookie. But as far as you're just talking about base cards of players, I love the prices of Clemente and Koufax cards in the 60s. You can buy a 62 Clemente and a 4 for $1.50 US, right?
Wow.
And that card's gorgeous. And if you don't need a 7 or an 8 or a 9 of a 60 Topps or a 63 Clemente or Koufax, those cards are very affordable. They're classic and they're iconic and they're never going out of style.
Yeah. And you know, you mentioned a name there that really twigged into my memories. Joe Morgan. I can still see Joe Morgan at the plate with that twitch that he had when he was getting ready to hit. Great memory for me. So, you know,
Well,
that's part of the equation for me too, I think.
Sure.
Let's go to some
memories.
Let's go to some comments, guys, because we have some on this. The professor says Pete Rose should be given a pardon and elected prior to passing. And I mean, I agree with that. Like, it's one thing to get in after posthumously. That's nice. But for the man himself, I think he'd appreciate to be to be able to witness himself getting in. Professor tells us that he was an excellent manager. Mitch wants to know, does Leighton like the 64 Rose as his first solo card? I really hate the 63 rookie stars. And before you answer, Leighton, I got to say, I'm a big fan of first solo cards, including the Pete Rose and the Nolan Ryan and among others. But I actually love the 63 rookie stars card. I think it's just so, you know, it reflects the era so well. I love the Pete Rose rookie card, and I have the 63 Rose and I have the 64. I love both of those. And Al, keep in mind, if you do look at this for these first solo cards, but Leighton, to Mitch's question, to get your answer, how do you like the 64 Rose being the first solo?
So, Mitch, great question. Appreciate you asking. And so for those listening, not only do I really like the 1964 Topps Pete Rose, but as a collector, as if you were even an investor, you have to consider that if you have an iconic player who appeared on a multi-player card for his rookie, it doesn't mean it's bad or it's wrong. But keep in mind that some of what we're considering now, even though it's not mainstream in the hobby, might be mainstream in 10 years, which means that a Pete Rose second year and a 3 or a 4 right now being sub $100, $150 could be $300 if a lot more people decide to think like Jeremy or you, Al, or myself, or even Mitch who's asking the question. So I don't think it's just the Pete Rose. I think it's any major rookie that's been on a multiplayer card. I love the 69 Nolan Ryan. And not because I hate the 68, but like you finally get to see Nolan as a young player in, you know, full photography, you know, meaning a great photo on his card. And I do think that there is potential. I'm not saying the cards are going to explode in value, but I do think they could go up handsomely as far as percentage goes. And they represent a really nice opportunity for a collector to own a great early card, you know, of someone such as Pete Rose or Nolan Ryan or etc.
Yeah. Mark Santucci throws out Mantle, Maris, Yaz, Clemente, Mays, and Brock, and I don't think you can go wrong there. Jake Dahl throws out the Juan Marichal as well from 1961. Collector's Dream throws out Nolan Ryan from and Johnny Bench as well from 1968. Mike Petty says it was an elbow flap. Mike at Eastridge says getting out of the 60s. I love the 71 Topps, and so does Mike Petty. Also likes the 71 Top set, which has that famous Thurman Munson card in it, the black border. Oh wait, no, that's not the black border.
No,
that's
71.
That is 71. Yeah, that is
black
71.
border. But speaking of which, Jeremy, and per Mitch's point, the 71 Munson is really, and I know it's condition sensitive, that's why it goes for big money, but a lot of people prefer it to his rookie because he's on with another player.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's just a really beautiful picture of him at the plate, you know, making a play. So really cool. Well, all right, Leighton, this was a great installment of the Vintage Spotlight. Good to have you on. And for everybody out there, you can follow Leighton on Instagram at Leighton_Sheldon and just_collect. And his podcast on all the podcast platforms is Trading Card Therapy. Leighton, we'll see you next Saturday.
Nice
Thanks,
meeting
everybody.
you.
Nice meeting
When
you.
our guest will be Jimmy Mahan from the Roadshow Cards franchise.
I know Jimmy very well. Looking forward to it.
Yes, I'm sure you do. All right, buddy.
Take it
Take
easy,
care. And Mike at Eastridge PC's Thurman Munson as well. Shark City says 71 is the hardest set to build in near mint condition. All right. Well, that was fun. Now anything you want to say before we move on?
Yeah, in the intro, you talked about me starting with CFL cards in 63. Can I just show a couple real quick?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you have to remember, this is 8-year-old me cutting these off of cereal boxes, post cereal. So this is what a regular one looks like. And you notice I said the word regular.
Yeah.
Okay. And this is one of my poorer attempts at cutting a card out.
Okay.
If you look on the one side there, it's chopped up pretty good.
So are these are cut from your childhood?
Yes. Yeah.
Interesting.
And
Yeah.
here's the album.
Oh, yeah. Cool. That's pretty cool.
So,
And can you put that album up there? Would that have been the Saskatchewan Roughriders and the Winnipeg Blue Bombers? Those are the colors I'm kind of seeing there. Oh no. Yeah, it is.
Is it?
It is. I see the W on the
Okay.
Winnipeg
Yeah.
helmet. Yeah.
Well, Winnipeg for sure. Yeah.
Probably I see the green and the yellow reminds me of the Saskatchewan Roughriders. So
I was thinking Edmonton Eskimos, maybe.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, Edmonton has the yellow and green. That's right.
Yeah.
That shows how much of a fan I am of the Canadian Football League. Not much at all. Not much at all. All right, so let's move on and get into your card collecting and just so your main collecting pursuits in hockey cards and sports cards. Well, sports cards are Jarome Iginla, Steve Yzerman, and then soccer. So you did send me some pictures to share. Is there anything you'd like me to bring up to start it off? Or do you just want to jump in and talk about what you're collecting? I'll leave it open to you.
Do you want to start with some of the Weebly pictures, or do you want me to just show some cards first?
Really, whatever. Why don't we start with some of the stuff you sent me, if that makes sense for you?
Sure.
So Al had was kind enough to send me a few photos to share here with everybody.
Why don't we do those career years? Those two first.
So right here, this is. Yeah. And you can also, we'll get into the software you use to create these, but so you're a big Jarome Iginla fan. I'm a big Jarome Iginla fan. I mean, he was the captain of our team from when I first moved to Calgary until, well, several years later. And why don't you tell us what this graphic is here that you put together?
Okay, so the three cards on the bottom kind of inspired this too. I own those three cards. They're my scans. But this is all the goals that he scored during the 2001-2002 season. It gives the date of the goal and which team they were playing. So what it does for me is it gets me more invested in my collecting. It's not just about grabbing cards and putting them in a box. I like to sort of branch out and look at other areas for that player as well.
And so this is one of those. And so how much time do you put into putting one of these together? And do you consider this graphic when it's finished to be a collectible, even though it's a one of one that you made yourself?
I guess so. Yeah. I mean, with some of the ones that I really like, I'll print them out on glossy printer paper and then put them in a binder so that, that way I don't have to turn my computer on all the time. I can look at these things and it's quite easy to get at.
All right. So pretty cool. But the key takeaway for me right here is that you own these cards and it's more than just having them and putting them in a box. You actually go the extra mile and incorporate them into something that really represents the player and the year, the season that he had in his career, which is partially why you collect him. Yeah. Okay, let's go to the next picture, if that's so, unless you have something to add.
Sure. Well, no, I just remembered you had asked me how long it took.
Yeah.
It varies from project to project. This project would have taken longer than the last one because I was also filtering the pictures to make it look like an old film strip.
So tell us about this one.
The pictures weren't originally like that. I put them through a filter, right? So this was to celebrate the ticket. I've shown it before. You know how Brett had made me that ticket for the 1,000 points that Iginla scored? Okay, so this is for his 600th goal. And so that was a ticket from someone who was actually at the game and sent it to me. And so I wanted to turn it into a bigger project. So I thought, well, what's better than putting all the other players that have scored 600 goals onto the same page? Now, the thing that's really got me going on this one is, of course, Alex Ovechkin. This gets me more invested in his quest to reach the top. Yeah, he's up there now. This is probably my fourth version of this page because I keep changing it and moving them up.
Yeah. And he's the only guy who's actually moving around on this.
I
on
believe
this sheet
so.
anymore.
Yeah, I don't think there's anybody else active there, is there?
No, there's not. That's a
Okay.
so that's neat, and of course it just shows that Jarome Iginla, who is not the most well-known of Hall of Famers or greats, but he's a part of this group of, what do we have, 7 and 19, 20. He's one of 20. I think I counted right. He's one of 20 players to score 600 goals. So that puts Jarome Iginla in pretty elite company right there. All right, let's keep going. The next one you sent me is this one here. It looks to be his 2003-4 season with a card up. Oh, this I see. Why don't you tell us about this?
Okay. So this is also a card that I own. And again, I wanted to celebrate the card because it's a special event, right? He won the Richard Trophy with Kovalchuk and Nash that year. So
what is the Richard Trophy?
Oh, that's for the top goal scorer for the year, right?
That was rhetorical.
So again,
I wanted you to tell everybody else.
Little bit of a different take on the pucks this time. So this time you've got two colors of numbers in there. I can't quite read it. It's a little too small on my screen, but the one is home games and one is away. Oh, there it is. Okay. So I like the blue, light blue is away games. The red ones are home games. So it tells you which team he scored it against and when. I
noticed right here he scored a hat trick against the Los Angeles Kings on February 3rd, 2004. 2 goals in this game, 2 goals here, 2 goals here, 2 goals here, 2 goals here. I would have been at probably at least 1 or 2 of these games in this season. This was early during my time in Calgary. That's really neat. Celebrating the Richard Trophy, really neat. And then pictures of the trophy itself right there as well.
Yeah.
All right. And the next image. Oh, now we have a. Why don't we just get into the Lionel Messi card? Do you want, or we'll come back to that when we talk about soccer cards. Tell us about this framed item you have.
So you had asked me about art, that we were going to talk about art too, how art plays into my collecting. I consider this to be part of art now because it's up on my wall and framed. Neat thing about this was these were redemptions. So when I got the 6 redemptions that I needed, I actually phoned Upper Deck customer care. And I told them what was going on. I said, I've got these 6 redemptions for Iginla. I want to make sure that I'm not getting 6 N's or 6 I's. Would it be possible to get the entire nameplate? And the agent said to me, you know what? I'll put a note on the file here. No promises, but we'll see what we can do. And they came through with flying colors. I can't hear you, Jeremy. Yeah.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Now I can hear you. Yes.
All right. It might not be as good, but better than the chipmunk voice that you guys were telling me. So thank you for the warning, and we might have to visit the computer store tomorrow. Okay, so that's that one. What do you want to tell us about this piece here, Al?
So this is a print from an artist, local artist. He actually lives in Airdrie now. He used to live in Calgary. Matt Stewart. I think Stewart Creations or something on Instagram. I'm not quite sure of his handle.
Stewart Illustrations, maybe Stewart Illustration.
Yeah. And so this was to celebrate his 600th goal, which he scored against Enroth in a game against Los Angeles. Now, I'm not sure if you're familiar with his 600th goal, but it was one of those excuse me goals. He actually was centering the puck. It went off Jake Muzzin's skate and deflected into the net. So it wasn't a very exciting goal. So I said to Matt when we were doing this, I said, you know what, let's just play around with this. I want to put it into my imagination. How would I have liked to have seen him score his 600th goal? So we've got him doing a breakaway on Enroth. We talked a fair bit about this project. I really like that there's that lack of detail in the background with the crowd. I really enjoy that. And yet your focus goes to his figure in the front.
Yeah, very cool. Here's an inscripted autographed 8x10. Happy birthday, Al. And listen, for people who might have missed earlier on the episode when I said Al has a almost 4,000 card Jerome McGinley collection, which we'll see some of his favorites shortly. And then this is really cool because it's cool to see because I have a piece from the same artist who's a big Jerome McGinley collector, Jaden Fraze. But why don't you tell us a little bit about this piece and how special it is to you and just in general?
This is based on something called sketchnoting, which I found out about through education and being a teacher. And sketchnoting is basically drawing pictures to get your ideas across and creating, a story or a theme. So this is Jerome McGinley's career as best we could do it. Jaden and I talked about this project for, I don't know, 6 months to a year, something like that. And I mean, he knocked it out of the park. We talked about how we wanted to present it. Do we want color on it? No, we didn't want color. And the beauty of this for me is there's no starting and ending point for it. You walk up to this and you can start wherever you want and take a look around, and it hits different people in different ways. I mean, certain people focus on certain areas. I just love it. It's got everything in there. Even, the crowd at the bottom there shouting Iggy, Iggy, Iggy in the Saddle Dome.
Right there.
So, yeah, Jaden is tremendously talented. I
would have been part of that shouting for several years in a row. When I used to go to probably 5 to 10 games a season. And when it was Iggy, 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 we used to go crazy because he was just that good and that exciting. A great player. And I just read today that he's got, I think I read today, I don't know how reliable the source was, that him and Dave Nonis were going to become part of the Flames front office staff. So I guess we'll hear more about that soon if that is the case. And then there's another piece from Jaden here. So this isn't, people are going to say, well, who's that hockey player? Well, that's not Brent Burns. I can tell you one thing, it's not Brent Burns, even though it might look a bit like him. But what is this? Al, what can you tell us about this piece?
So this is me in another life. No, this is my hobby name. I wanted something to use on different sites. Like I use this in Instagram for my avatar, and it's Uhtred the Viking, which is what my name is on a lot of different sites. So Instagram,
and what is this?
When I set it up,
the Viking.
Sorry?
Significance of this guy. Who is this guy? What's his significance?
Okay. So Bernard Cornwell is my favorite author. And if you're familiar with the Last Kingdom series,
okay,
right, from Netflix, Uhtred is the main character. So when I set up my username on Hobby Insider, I thought, I want something different, something unique. I've been reading the books. I like that character, so that's what I picked.
All right, and let's see what the next image is. Right here, we're back to, so there's this one still to talk about, and the Messi card. So why don't we just start again talking about, why don't you show us some of your favorite Iginla cards from your collection and sure, talk a bit about them, and if there's any sort of special stories behind them or significance of them for you in your collection.
Okay.
Sound is bad again. Is my sound bad again?
You sound a lot better.
Okay,
you were breaking up for me when the other screen was open. Now you're much better. It's much smoother.
Okay.
So here's another little connection to one of your earlier shows when you had Grant Sandground on from Upper Deck. And you very kindly asked him one of my questions on that show about art cards. I had asked him if they were going to be creating more of these. So this is the card.
Mm. So
and this is actually...
That's a pack pulled.
Yeah, he called it a triptych. But it is actually a piece of art. It's an oil painting on each of those. It's out of 3. Jaden has one of the other ones, and I have seen the third one. I don't know who owns it, but I have seen it. So
very cool. Very cool. Something else you'd like to show?
Yeah, just a couple here. So one of my favorite new series when it came out was Upper Deck Black. I absolutely loved that series. And they had what I call the blues in there. It had blue foil. So this is an 8-player blue foil.
Hmm.
And it's a
Gretzky,
1/1.
Crosby,
Thornton, I think.
Thornton.
And St. Louis, is it?
Yeah, it looks like St.
Yep,
Louis.
St. Louis. And then
Yeah.
on the backside is Iginla, Jagger, Lemieux, and Dion.
Oh yeah, yeah, very nice.
But
Those
I
are
just
cool.
love, you can see the blue shine there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice blue foil.
And then this comes from the oddball category. I've got an error card. So this is the regular one. Again, from Black.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Pride
So
of the Nation.
25. That's regular. Now, can you tell me what's wrong with this one?
That's Danny Heatley pictured.
Right. But it's got Jerome's signature.
Well, what was Jerome not looking at the card when he signed
I guess not.
it?
I don't know.
That's hilarious.
And then you had asked me to pull out an art card. So I've got, and you know, I really do miss in the game Ultimate Memorabilia. I got so many fantastic cards out of there. So there's a whole series of these. There's like art and glove, art and emblem. There's about 4 different versions. So, and this is from the 12th edition.
So you showed us the triple panel art card, and Mitch throws out here a factoid. Those 3 panel art cards are from 2014-15, the Cup, and are considered exquisite cards from the first time Upper Deck ever made exquisite hockey. So I think they're probably extra special. Only 7 cards on the checklist. The professor says the blue foil reminds me of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. And Mark Santucci, Al, any scoring leaders cards of Jerome?
Yeah, I do. Like trophy cuts, I think would qualify. Is that right? I didn't pull them out though; they're downstairs. But
no, we'll stick with what you have on your desk right now. Yeah.
I'll just respond to Mitch's comment too, because I've looked at that checklist. I don't think Jerome's on it. There's 7 players, but correct me if I'm wrong, Mitch. I don't think Jerome was included in the list, was he?
But he has a card.
He has a card, but he's not on the official list that I could see. At least when I looked before.
Yeah.
And last one I'll show you from this group is this one. So this is a glove piece.
Yeah, those are neat. Big fan of those cards myself.
From 10th edition.
Yeah, Mitch does confirm Iginla is not on the checklist, just looked. So he says, I guess there's at least 8. Yeah, makes sense. Travis Hanna, good to see you, says, only wish the art card was in a Flames jersey. Fair enough.
Yeah.
What else you got, Al?
Okay, so I thought I'd have a little fun with this and try a little theme with this to see what I could find. So my theme is the Canadian flag. Okay.
Iginla, and is that Dion Phaneuf?
It's Tanguay.
Tanguay, okay.
Yeah. Tag team 1 of 1. And then here's one from the Cup. Hands off, Mitch. This is mine.
Nice.
And I love the red. I don't know why, but I really like when they've got the red ink and red foil.
So that's a laundry tag card, but it just happens to be the Canadian flag made in Canada. Yeah, really cool.
And then I'm pretty sure you have some of these too. I think I showed this once before, and you said you had one that was one of your favorites, I think.
Yes, I do. I have. So that's awesome because that's the Cup Foundation's 1 of 1. There's several parallels, and that's the 1 of 1 and on the 1 of 1, they had them as laundry tags. So I have the Dale Howard from that year, and it's also an awesome card.
Yeah.
So a couple questions have come up here. The professor wants to know, does Al grade any of his cards?
Actually, a few. The Edmonton Expo was the first time I ever actually took cards in to be graded. I have bought graded cards. I have several Iginla rookie cards that are graded, and I actually have a little project going with that too. I try to find as many different companies as I can that have graded his rookie cards, and I think I'm up to 7 different companies now. There was something Troop. I've never seen that before. Something grading troop or something out of
Okay.
California, I think. So.
And Collect says, great stuff. Al
Thanks, Calvin.
Lapper, good to see Collects. Lapper says, does Al have any game-worn Iginla full jerseys or other memorabilia?
No.
Just cards, just cards. Did you bring out any more Iginla cards to show us?
Sure. Okay, well, this is the one you put up. I'll show it live instead of just the picture.
Yeah.
Probably my favorite. Okay.
So that was from what you, that's a property of, so that's a piece of game worn stick. It's a 0506 property of, it's a 1 of 1. 0506, so that's the first year of the cup. And you got, wow, that's an amazing card. That's a grail type of card. That's a centerpiece of your collection type of card.
Yeah.
Is that your favorite Iginla card?
I would say yes. Yeah. And I've had some major offers for this, and I actually considered it at one point, and then I talked it over with a very good friend of mine, Chris from Hobby Insider, Forsberg 21. And he gave me some great advice. He said, if you're getting cards back, if it's like 3 or 4 cards back, do those cards give you the same sense of satisfaction of ownership that this one does? And I had to say, no, they don't. Financially, it made sense, but emotionally, it didn't. So I kept the card.
Yeah, for sure. All right. And so what else do you want to show? We still have a lot to cover. So do you want to show any Yzerman cards or any soccer cards?
Sure. So I just pulled out a few Yzermans because I didn't want to overwhelm people. Sorry, I was just reading Mitch's comment. I know what he means. At the bottom there, he says, can you show my favorite property of that you have?
What's he talking about?
He's talking about Bossy. I have a Mike Bossy property up from the same year. And it's all red background with black ink text. It's a fantastic looking card. It's downstairs. I didn't bring it up. So sorry, Mitch.
Let's see what you got.
So here's the gold version Yzerman from the first year.
Yeah.
The Game Ultimate. Again, with my Canadian flag theme.
That's cool. That's a Panini card.
It's it's Century Materials, it's called.
Jeff McMahon says, show the Yzerman cards. Here we go.
Well, I didn't bring a lot of them up. The other one that's kind of a favorite, and I've actually managed to get all of the different versions. I just pulled one out. But these ones, Cornerstones.
Oh, yeah.
I think there's like 6 different versions. So that's one of my favorites too. Well,
the National Treasure card that you showed, it was one of Matt. He says, goodness, that Panini National Treasure is one of my favorites that Al owns. So very nice card. Very nice card. Any more cards to show, Al?
Well, I do, but they're connected. You still want me to show separate the ones that connect you and me together? Or do you want me to show them now?
Let's get into that. I mean, we may as well. We're already behind schedule. So
I know, because I have some Yzerman and again in that group.
Let's see them. Okay.
So a little bit of a backstory here. 2011. This would have been Toronto Expo 2011. You
were not at.
Sorry?
You were not at.
No, I was not at. I haven't been to an expo, so no, I wasn't there. But you were, and you phoned me, and I actually answered, which was remarkable at that time because I think I had an old flip phone or something at that time, but it's not like now I have an iPhone, which I turn on as soon as I wake up and don't turn off until I go to bed. In those days, there could be days at a time where I didn't have the darn thing turned on because I didn't use it much.
Yeah, that's even. I don't think I've turned off my iPhone since it ran out of battery 3 months ago because I forgot to charge it. I don't even ever turn mine off, but that's okay. I just sleep with it charging.
Different times, right?
Different times.
anyways,
so this is
my wife.
2011. This was 2011. This card. So this is already 12 years ago.
Yeah. So my wife and I had just come out of Safeway. We were in the parking lot.
That's
I
a
just
grocery
loaded
store
the
in Canada, everybody.
Yeah. Just loaded the groceries in the back, and all of a sudden my phone rang. And at first I thought, oh, maybe it's the boys, right? Because the two boys were at home. So I answered, and it was you. And you said, hey, I found a nice card you might want. It's Pen Pals 1 of 1 with Newendike on it. And here's what the guy wants. Do you want to go for it? And I thought to myself, you know what? I don't know if I'll ever get to an expo. So I jumped on it, and thank you very much for that. So this was one of the first. I mean, we've always connected at the local shows. I always go to your table, but this was the first long distance deal that we did, which is kind of cool.
And so when you were on the IG Hockey Collectors Round Table on Wednesday, and I still haven't been able, that was when I was the first one I haven't been able to watch from that series, and I haven't been able to get to it yet. But in any event, in chatting with you, you mentioned that, and that whole episode is around community assists, how people help each other get cards, and you didn't get to tell our story on that show, so. I'm glad you got to share it now, especially with me directly. It's nice to think back to. I remember making that phone call, even though it's 12 years ago.
Yeah. No, the show you're referencing, it was a shorter show because Matt's a coach and he had to leave early. And we actually divided the community assists up into 3 areas. So we covered the in-person ones, and then the rest are to follow. So they'll be coming along. Okay, so let's go back to 2010 Expo. Okay, Toronto Expo again, 2010. I had bought 2 boxes of In the Game Ultimate memorabilia from Bruce Findlay, who owned Hobby Insider at that time. Now, there was a promotion where you would get redemption cards if you opened the boxes at the Expo, right? So you very graciously agreed to do that for me. So here's a sample. These aren't anything too special, but just so you can see again.
Oh,
these are the redemption cards that you got, like this, right?
Yeah.
So one of the cards out of my box, which you wouldn't tell me until you came back to town, you told me the rest of them, but you wouldn't tell me that one, ended up being a Tim Hortons cut auto. And I turned that into about 6 other cards for the Decades set that I was building. So this is the key card from the Decades set.
So tell us about this card, because it is a special card.
Yeah. So 1910, it's the earliest memorabilia that I own. I think it was Kurt Gabby Guy, who I talked to a fair bit on Hobby Insider at the time. He mentioned that he was pretty sure there was 4 of these that were opened at the Expo. Okay. So I knew they were in short supply. I had started the series already. There was a guy on Hobby Insider. His handle was MTO for life. His name was Murray. He opened cases of this stuff. And we had done a few deals already, plus Holy Goalie Mike. I had done some with him as well. And so out of the blue, he said to me, hey, guess what I just pulled? And it was this card. And he had about 20 offers on the table. And he told me, he says, match the top offer and it's yours. And so that's what he did. So I built the set.
Nice.
Yeah.
So who's on that card? Because that is a pioneer sort of card. You got 4 players who played in the 1910s.
Well, start here and then go here. So it's got Newsy Lalonde, Cyclone Taylor, Frank Niebuhr, and Patty Moran.
Yeah, it's a very cool card. And that memorabilia is over 100 years old by now, even though the card is from 2009 or 10. That's the 19. So it was a decade set. One card to represent the 1910s, one to represent the 20s, and so on.
There's 12 cards, I believe, in the set.
Yeah, really, really cool. Really cool. Okay, well, what else? Anything else to show, or any other stories that you couldn't tell on the show on Wednesday that you'd like to tell now?
Well, I've got 2 more cards that still connect us.
Okay.
So you'll have to help me remember. I think it was September of 2021 when you bought the Barron's collection. Remember Okay. And you
Okay.
gave me a call and said, hey, I bought a major collection from a local guy, and there's a bunch of Aginla in here if you want to come see what it looks like. So I went, and I ended up buying just a few cards from you. But these are two of my absolute favorites from the group. So there's this one.
Yeah, Panini Prime Cut, or what is it called? Prime
Authentics.
Prime Authentics. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, Prime Authentics. Okay. So that was for my Aginla side. And you actually had something very nice for my Iserman collection as well.
Oh, yes.
So
Yes.
8 players.
With Gordie Howe even.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's Sid Abel, Ted Lindsay, Norm Ullman, Roger Crozier, Alex Del Vecchio, Steve Yzerman, Dino Cicerelli, and Brett Hull. Those are the 8.
Nice. Great, a great mix of players representing the Detroit, the history of the Detroit Red Wings franchise quite nicely. Jeff McMahon, I hope you're still here and got to see that card. Anything else, Al? Anything else that connects us, or is that the end of that?
That'll be it for what connects us. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's move along then. I want to talk about the title of this episode, which is "It's a Celebration, Not a Competition." Can you just speak to that? Because that was your quote. I didn't make that up. That you said that when we were chatting the other day, and I thought, there it is. There's the title for the episode. What does it? And you even said to me that that's something that you've been known to say. It's one of your favorite sayings that as far as the hobby goes for you. So it's a celebration, not a competition. Just tell us why that's important to you and what it means to you.
Okay. I've got to know a lot of other Aginla collectors through my years. Like Grazie, Jeff from Hobby Insider, Chris from Hobby Insider, Jaden. There's many more. It's so much more enjoyable to work together and to celebrate the cards as opposed to, bidding against each other and saying, oh, I want this, I want that. No. I mean, as an example, Jaden and I have a really good relationship that way. If he really, really wants a card and he lets me know that, good. Whether I need it or not, it's immaterial at that point. Okay. And he'll do the same for me. The other thing too, for me, in the early days, I almost used to feel a little bit guilty about showing one-of-one cards, just because I didn't want to come across as, somebody that, oh, I got all these great cards, look at this. I didn't want it to be looked upon that way. But on the other side of the coin, I thought, if I'm a collector, wouldn't I want to see those cards? I don't want somebody to get those cards and right away put them in a box and not share them with anybody. What's the point of making that card if you're not going to share it with other people? And we can all celebrate it together. So that's basically what it means for me.
Yeah, I think it's a great way to approach the hobby and community. We are, as in this hobby, we make friends, and some of them we don't even ever meet in person. We just know some of them we know from message boards, Instagram, YouTube shows, YouTube chat boxes, whatever it might be. So it's a great way to be and to help each other out. And I'm finding that, and I'm learning about more and more groups, like private DM groups of people that collect Peyton Manning hang out together. People that collect wrestling cards have group. Michael Jordan cards. There's all these different. I'm in a couple of these, but I know there's dozens more out there that I'm not in because I'm not hardcore about it. I recently learned about a Ken Griffey Jr. private DM group, and it goes on and on and on. So it's really nice to spread that message to really help out your fellow collector, celebrate with them, and not necessarily compete. Even though it must be hard not to, because you mentioned you and Jaden, you guys will do that for each other. But what if there's a card you both really want? Has that ever happened? And then what happens in that case?
I'm sure it has. I don't remember a specific card, but I know there's times when we both really wanted something. I think we both sort of step back for a second and think about it, and then we reconnect and say, who does this card mean the most to? Like, for example, he's got a project right now where he's collecting jersey numbered cards. he's got over 190 jersey numbered cards for Iginla.
Right.
So if I see one, and this just happened a couple of weeks ago, somebody on Instagram messaged me and said, "Hey, here's a card. You might be interested. It's jersey numbered." Well, right away, instead of me bidding on it, I sent the message over to Jaden and said, "Hey, here's a card you might need." And you know what? It just feels right for me doing that because I don't need it. And he's got a project. I mean, our projects are special to us. It's what drives us and keeps us interested and invested in what we're doing.
Yeah, and I seem to remember when you came over to my house that time when I picked up that collection from the Baron, and you went through them because he was a big Flames collector. I feel like you picked out a card or two that were for Jaden too, that you got to say, well, right. So you're always thinking about him. And I know Jaden myself. He came to the Edmonton Expo, a great guy, a great collector, an amazing artist. We showed some of his work earlier. He's a tattoo artist by trade, and you can almost tell with his pencil work as well. Really cool. And then the other quote that you said to me that I wrote down was, make as many connections as you can. And I think that one doesn't necessarily need much more explaining because we've talked about it, but I want to know, in your personal experience, how have your connections really enhanced your hobby? Not so much the cards you've received, but you can talk to that too. So just how has it enhanced your experience?
Okay, well, I'll give you one example here. We're both members of the Round Table group, right? That Matt started. Okay. So for me, I enjoy being part of that group because you can be part of a discussion about the hobby and bounce ideas off one another. It gives you, I think back to my early days of collecting. Before 2008, when I was introduced to Hobby Insider, I was down in my basement bidding on Iginla cards. I wasn't sharing them with anybody. I wasn't talking about them with anybody. And I can honestly say it was not as enjoyable an experience as it is now, right? You get to see so many different things. And even, like across the pond there, I've got a couple of friends in Finland. So Jarkko and Tatu, okay? I get to see things through a different lens from over there that you don't see over here, right? Yeah. So it's about making friendships and connecting in that way.
Yeah. We talked about the community assists, and I did not take part in that episode on the round table episodes. And before I tell this quick story, I want to let's shout out that initiative that Matt, who's Tomcat Sports Cards, and for anyone who missed it, Matt was actually the guest on Sports Cards Live back on March 18th. It was episode number 178, and since then, Matt and Mitch, I believe, kind of maybe are the brain trust behind starting this this content initiative. It occurs on this. I'm going to put up Matt's message right here, one of his comments, because this is his logo for the YouTube channel. These are on the channel. It's called The Essential Credentials, and Matt's been doing content for longer than I have. It used to be baseball, but now he's switched almost exclusively hockey. And they've done 4 episodes, I believe, of these round tables. And check them out, guys. Go give a subscribe to Essential Credentials on Instagram, on YouTube. Check out the 4 episodes. They're every Wednesday night. I will be going on one of them very soon. Hopefully in the next month, I'll make an appearance on one of these episodes. But it's a great group of guys that have been filling the seats on these. Almost every one of them, I believe, I met at the Expo in Toronto if I hadn't known them before, which was really cool. And so check these out. But Al, the reason why I want to, one of the reasons why I want to talk about this again is that you have been on 2 of these episodes, I believe, so far, and this is really a nice outlet for you. And I know there's a lot of guys that are going to fill the seats every week, so you're not going to see the same people every time. But how excited are you to be, never mind being a part of the private DM group where the plans are being made, but also being on the show and maybe being someone who's on there, say, once a month or whatever it might be?
I think the good thing for me is sometimes it puts me out of my comfort zone. I talk about things that I don't know a lot about, but I'm trying to learn about. So in one of the episodes, they were talking about EPAC. Well, Jaden showed me EPAC. I go on it once in a while just to get the free cards, but I've never done anything else with it. So I'm no expert, but I'm there to talk about it and ask questions. And I think that's a benefit for me. That's one of the things I enjoy out of it. So.
And it's always good for the audience to have somebody on the screen asking the questions that represents the people who might not know about it, because not everybody is typing up in the chat and all that. So, that's really really cool. So the last episode, the most recent one that Matt's comment on the screen right now is referencing, where he says it was a quick episode because he had to leave early to go coach or something like that. So there were a lot of stories they couldn't get to. But I just wanted to shout out Porco Sports Cards right now, because this is my community assist shout out of the day. Earlier this morning, I get a DM on Instagram from Frank. He's Porco Sports Cards on Instagram. And if you're on Instagram, if you're not following Frank, Porco, that's his last name. Give him a follow. Great guy. Got to meet him at the Burbank show back in February and bought some cards from him there. Anyway, he collects a lot of rare 90s cards, and he reached out to me today saying, hey, I have an extra 1996 Run for the Cup Teemu Selanne card. Selanne being, my favorite player of all time. How do I do it?
Yeah.
There he is right there.
Yeah.
Anyway, you can see it right there. I don't need to point to it. Selanne's my all-time favorite professional athlete. And he said to me, he bought it a couple months ago with me in mind, but kind of forgot for a while and reached out to me today, said, hey, I came across this. If you want it, you can have it. Here's what I paid. You can have it for that. Just, let me know. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to say no to that. Like, first of all, I don't have the card. It's a very special card. And it was just just another example of the community kind of celebrating with each other versus just competing. And his generosity, his thought, and then his willingness just to flip it to me for what he paid, I thought was really nice too. So we were going to do it where I'd pick it up from him at the Burbank show, which is not until the very beginning of September. I said, nah, you know what? I'd rather pay the shipping, which is going to probably be, I think it's going to be like $25 US. I said, I'd rather pay the shipping to get the card here and have it in hand for 3 extra months of my life. For 3 months. 3 months is a long time. So, you know what? I'm actually I know it goes by fast, but I'll pay that extra money to get it in hand. And oftentimes I'm not in a rush to get my cards. I will wait, but that's one that I'm like, you know what? Send it out. I'd like to have that one. So I wanted to shout him out in the spirit of the most recent episode of the Roundtables on the Essential Credentials YouTube channel.
And Jeremy, if I could just add one thing, you talk about community assist. A lot of us now, Instagram seems to be our main marketplace, our main area that we enjoy going to. With things like reels and stories that can be very short-lived, when you have people looking out for you and sending you messages and saying, hey, check out this story, check out this reel, you don't have to be the one that has eyes in all those spaces, right?
That's a good point.
That's what I'm finding on Instagram. I love it because I get messages all the time.
Yeah,
So.
it is awesome. Name is in the house, says, hello guys. Sorry I'm late. We were having dinner over at the in-laws. Well, you got to get fed, Name. Glad to hear it. The professor says EPAC is something I learned about from the Marvel card community and not the sports card community. Yeah, well, Upper Deck is big into Marvel as well. Jeff McMahon says Matt's Collectors Roundtable series is a must watch. And got to agree, it's just nice watching people sit and chat hobby, like real grassroots type of hockey talk. So definitely agree with that. So Al, you've never been to National, you've never been to the Toronto Expo. You went to the Edmonton Expo this past month, or was that was actually earlier this month? Never mind.
The 7th.
Yeah, the 5th to the 7th of this month. After going to that, and we talked about you being there already, so we don't have to get into it a lot more, but after going to that show, does it make you want to go to travel further, to go to bigger shows, or are you happy staying put in the province of Alberta and just going to the local shows here?
I'm happy in my own little pond.
Okay.
Yeah.
And why wouldn't you, you're retired, so why wouldn't you hop on a plane, get a hotel room, and go to Toronto for 3 nights and come to the dinner that I organize at the Jack Astor's on Thursday night? And I'm not trying to pressure you, but we'd all love to see you there.
I think I've mentioned to you before, it's too big for me, the Toronto show. I'm not someone who does well in crowds, like when you're really crowded in and stuff. And I think it would just be too overwhelming for me, honestly.
Well, fair
That's
enough.
my main reason.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, and I hear you, but I still wonder, because I just know what kind of collector you are and how much you love your collection, and and then being a lover of cards and card shows myself, I think to myself, even for you, like, wouldn't the desire to experience it, and I guess it doesn't, but maybe it's the same answer. I guess the better way to put it, I'm a little surprised, if you will, that the hobby experience of that big show and seeing all those cards wouldn't force you or cause you to get out of your comfort zone and just go kind of jump in and face those fears anyway. No pressure, of course.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I've considered it. I mean, the thing for me, while I was working, I retired in 2016. I couldn't go because that weekend was report card interviews, so I could never go. So the decision was already made for me. I will say this: the idea is starting to grow with me, mainly because of my experience in Edmonton. The Sunday, when I went on Sunday, was all about connecting with the dealers. I spent more time talking to the dealers than I did shopping, and I still found some awesome stuff. So, yeah, okay.
Yeah. Well, and let me tell you this too, because you did all right at the Edmonton show crowds wise, and in Toronto, the crowds aren't that much heavier or thicker than they were at the peak in Edmonton. And when they are, which was like Saturday was a complete gong show in Toronto. But even then, there are still places that you can go to sit down and, like at tables and talk to people and get away from the crowd, or just not go on Saturday is another option too. Not go on the busiest day. I'm just throwing this out there. Again, I've said it 3 times, no pressure, but it's still fun trying to coerce you to come anyway. So, I wouldn't forgive myself if I didn't say these things.
Okay. It'll be something I'll be thinking about. Let's put it that way.
All right. Sounds good. Travis Hanna says, how often do you guys go to the Calgary shows? Would love to see you guys at one. Well, Travis, I go to the Acadia Rec Center, which is our monthly show. I go pretty much every month it's on. I'll go on the Saturday, and I'll be there from between 10:30 a.m. and noon. And then I got to go pick up my daughter from her dance class. So that's pretty much when I go. And then the other local show there's really only one other local show, and that's the one that Darren from Maple Leaf Sports started a couple years ago. The problem with that is that I've been out of town the last 2 times he's done it. So at other card shows, one was during the Burbank show, I believe, one was during the Mint Collective, something like that. So I couldn't even I was out of town. I couldn't go. I've only been to one of those, Travis, but the ARC, the Acadia Rec Center show, is the monthly here in Calgary, and it was last weekend, actually, a week ago, right now. How about you, Al?
I've gone to all of Darren's. I think there's been 5 now. Am I right? I think there's been 5. But anyways, I go to all of them. It's only 10 minutes from my house, so. But he has them April and October. So this last one was April 1st.
Okay, and the October one, when was that? Because I was. Oh, maybe it was during the Expo.
Towards the end of the month.
Oh, maybe I was at the Montreal show that weekend. I just know that I was out of town. So let's see what Matt says. Thank you, Jeff. Man, this has been a fun show to listen to. I could listen to these 2 tell stories all night. Thank you, Matt.
Thanks, Matt.
Name says, do either of you guys have any good memories you'd like to share from the Hobby Insider message boards over the years? Oh boy, name. I mean, I've owned the Hobby Insider message board since 2012, which really just means I'm the lead administrator on the site. And there's nothing really comes to mind. Well, what comes to mind for me is the community aspect of it, and really the traditional pre-expo dinner, which I carry on now at Expo on the Thursday night, and I've extended it to be much more than actually it's really, there were only about a handful of Hobby Insider guys there this last month in April. It's become more of a sports cards live and just whoever's at the card show sort of thing. But that would be one of mine, are the experiences of hanging out in person, going back to the Bruce Findlay days, who I acquired the site from. And, I think I joined it in 2004 or 3 and stuck, and then acquired it from Bruce. But I feel that it was more fun back in those days, before Facebook groups and Instagram and YouTube all became a thing for the hobby, because that has moved a lot. And then photo sharing became difficult, as we all know. So lots of great memories, but nothing that comes to mind for me like on the message boards, except the one time I got to go to the Upper Deck pack out for the Cup in 2009. That all happened because I challenged Upper Deck on Hobby Insider, and there were Upper Deck personnel that would frequent the site, and that's where I said, hey, if you guys won't capture images of all the patch cards from the Cup, then I will come on my own time and my own dime and photograph those myself. And they took me up on that offer. So that happened on Hobby Insider. That's probably one of my favorite memories. How about you, Al?
Well, as I was listening to you and thinking about this, I thought of 3 things. Okay. So number 1, knowledge. The knowledge that you see on those boards is second to none. There's been the odd time where I've put out questions like about show cards or certain series, and I always get an answer. Someone always knows. So that's one thing. Second thing is the deals that I've done on Hobby Insider. That was my, outside of eBay, up until the time I got active on Instagram, that was my main source. I think my feedback is something like 122 or something on Hobby Insider. Largest single deal that I've ever done was on Hobby Insider with Steve Quincy.
Yeah.
I'll show a card here too, because this is part of my Hobby Insider experience. Casey, who went by Straight Jacket. I don't know if you remember him.
I do.
STR, the number 8 JKT. Sure. He's the one that introduced me to Hobby Insider in 2008. I met him at trading night, but he helped me complete a bunch of stuff. But the main one, my white whale for many, many years, was this card.
Oh, auto draft.
Out of 11.
Yeah.
Okay. Now this card also has extra significance for me because I was able to complete the entire run of Aginla cards for SB Game Use 2005-2006, which is made up of 38 cards. And again, this was my white whale.
That's cool.
And he had one and he sold it to me.
Very cool. Very cool. All right. Well, hey, Name, thank you for that comment. That gave us a little trip back down memory lane. We'll do a couple more comments here. Lapper says, Al would definitely enjoy chatting with the dealers very much. Yes, he does. Yes, he does. The professor says, how do you think the dealers get their awesome stuff? That's a whole episode in and of itself, Professor. We're gonna leave that one. He says Darren advertises on his store's website. Focus also seems to be on kids on the hobby. Travis says, how are the Acadia shows? I've been to one of Darren's, but not Acadia. Well, it's a small show, Travis, the Acadia show, and the vendors it's the same vendors pretty much every time, but some of them have the same stuff every time, but there's some guys there that actually do have different things. So I would highly recommend it. It's local. So come check it out. And if you come on the Saturday in the morning and you see me, please introduce yourself. It'd be great to meet you in person. Name says, I agree with you about that, Jeremy. Those days on Hobby Insider were really enjoyable, made a ton of great connections with collectors there. Yeah, just the amount of members visiting every day, the volume of posts every day and new threads, it's come down significantly in the last several years, really with the advent of social media. Terry Fortune says, Craig, also known as Full Colostomy Bag, that was the username, was a classic on Hobby. And Chris Vegas Puck, who is now who was with Panini for a long time and now is with Leaf Trading Cards. Chris Barr is his name, and he was a guest on Sports Cards Live early on in the first 20 or 30 episodes, and he was a regular on Hobby Insider for many years, an original moderator and everything. Terry Fortune says my 2 largest purchases also came from Hobby Insider. And Matt says, can't wait to meet so many people from the Instagram community at the National this year. Yeah, well, Matt, talk about a guy who's never been able to go to the Expo because it coincides with busy time as a teacher, is going to make his first big show, the National in Chicago, the granddaddy of all card shows. Matt, can't wait to see you there. That's going to be great for sure. Al, I got to ask you, you said that you did your first, now I know the answer to this, everybody. Little bit of a plug here, but you did your first card submission for grading in Edmonton earlier this month. Tell us about that.
Okay.
Oh, you have the cards back already.
I have the cards here. Yep.
That was fast.
So
good service from this grading company, I got to say.
So as I had said earlier, this is the first time I've ever put cards in for grading. I've bought graded cards on eBay, but I've never put them in myself. So I wanted to pick 2 cards that had some significant meaning to me. So one of them is this one.
Oh, wow. So that's the 04 SP Authentic.
SP Authentic Redemption.
Yep. And that's
so
that's
when I submitted this,
so we can see. Can you tilt it so we can see the top of it, the label a bit better? So it's a tag 9. So you got it done with tag. Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
What's the 3-digit grade inside the QR code? Can you see that?
Yeah, 905.
It's a 905. So yeah.
But having said that, I don't know if you can see this very well. I mean, look at those numbers. It's one number. It's the back at 892, which brought this card down. And you know what? That's the original way it came from Upper Deck. There's some ink spatter on the back. Yeah. I still remember this when I got the card and I looked at it and I said, what's all this gold stuff, little dots and stuff? So there was ink spatter there. But I submitted this card in the original top loader and envelope that Upper Deck sent to me back in the day when I redeemed that. Yeah. So this one means a lot. The other one.
That's a great card, Al. I love that. I love that Crosby card, by the way. And I think
thank you. I mean, and this is the other one. We know that Bergeron's going to be retiring soon.
So that one got a 7.
Yeah, but it was also it was the back. If you look, and by the way, everybody, here's the front of this. I gotta say, Tag's report on these cards is just off the charts. 22 pages I printed out. It's got everything though.
You could have shrunk it a little bit.
Well, I know I could have.
Save yourself some paper. I'm just bugging you. I'm just bugging you.
But if you look here's the same page. So there's my numbers, and again, it's the surface 694. That's what brought it right down, right? Yeah. Everything else is right up there. So for me, when I look at these reports, I'm going, okay, the front of both of these cards is just about pristine. Yeah. When you look at a card, do you look at the back very often?
Not as often as the front.
So I'm very happy.
Yeah. That's the nice thing about a detailed report like that is you really know why the card got the grade it did, and then if you don't care about the reason for the lower overall grade, well then that you can save some money by buying a lower grade card, because it might be the flaw, might be the defect, the biggest offending defect might be on the back of the card. So
I know how you were after me to go to Expo, so I'm going to be after you on something, and I know it's not totally in your control. I'm just teasing here.
Yeah.
To be able to grade my Iginla rookie cards.
Oh, well, you'll be because Tag is only doing 2,000 forward right now.
Yeah.
My understanding from my communication with the team down in Los Angeles is that by the end of this year, Tag will be grading cards back to 1989. So basically basically the beginning of the Upper Deck era when their baseball set came out. So excited for that. And then, we'll go back further in due course after that. But to get to 1989 forward is the current plan as far as I understand. So
maybe I might want to bring this one in then.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The metal Gretzky metal base card. I have a copy of that too. Beautiful card. I'm going to go to a couple more comments here, Al. Terry Fortune, my 2 largest purchases also came from HI. I think I did that one already. Yes, I did. Oh, this was the one. Mitch says the most I've ever spent on a card was from a deal made on Hobby Insider. And the professor says, why not do I think this is to Matt. Why, maybe to me too. Why not do an Instagram live for Al and for all of us to join for the upcoming national? I think you can count on that. I think that'll happen. Lapper loves that you printed the report out, the grading report. Yankees fan, nice to see you. Glad you're enjoying the show. Al is a class act. I mean, there's no doubt about that. I've known you for a long time, Al. So to me, that's just like, well, of course obviously he is, but I know you just met him, Yankees fan. So I'm glad you recognize that as well. All right, Al, is there anything? Listen, I'm gonna look over our show notes here and see. We didn't talk about soccer. Would you like to say anything about the soccer cards that you collect and your interest in soccer before we start to wrap up?
Yeah, I was just looking. Oh, here it is. Okay, I couldn't remember where I put my sheets. So
Matt does say that he is planning on doing a live show on YouTube from the National as well. Go ahead, Al.
Okay. So this is my new project now. I love the look of these. So I've got Mbappe, I've got Messi, I've got
here's the Messi right here. You sent me this picture.
Yeah, got that. Who's the English guy? The English captain. He won the Golden Boot at one point. I can't remember his name. Anyways, I've got his coming in. This is my little project. I like to make little projects. And a lot of times it can be cards that are more affordable. I'm not always looking for high-end stuff. So host city cards for soccer. That was one of the ones that I went with. Oh, this is from Brazil. There's a few more here, but this is the one page.
Okay.
All the different cities that hosted for Brazil. And then here's the other page. There's those.
Nice.
And these. Okay.
Yeah.
And then Russia, same deal. So there's more than this page, but I didn't pull the other page out.
Is it Harry Kane, Lapper, and Matter?
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Mark wants to know, do you have any Manchester United cards?
No.
Well,
actually, no, I shouldn't say that. I have bought soccer boxes in the past, and I do have binders full of soccer cards, but it's mostly World Cup stuff. I do have some other team stuff, but I don't follow that in my collecting as much.
Okay. So. I'd like some Ted Lasso cards. I'm up to date on Ted Lasso right now with my wife, and they just played in Manchester. They just played Man United in the episode we watched yesterday. Okay. But it's all fictitious, so I'm not collecting the cards. But I would collect Ted Lasso cards. I got to tell you that if they did a series of those, count me in. It's the most feel good show I think I've ever watched. Have you been watching?
I've never seen it.
Never seen it? Yeah,
no.
It's really good. Jake Dahl wants to know, any Pelé cards in your collection?
No, but I do have 2 special ones here that I wanted to share.
Sure.
So this is one.
Ronaldo auto.
Okay.
Nice.
And then this one, shout out to Mikey at Eastridge. This is from a box that I bought from him in the store. I actually made the trip down there. It's like half the city away from me, but I went down there and got this one.
Ooh. And who's on that card?
So this is Dybala Maradona, Kempes, and Batistuta. And I believe Batistuta was one of the guys that brought the World Cup trophy into the arena, didn't he? When Argentina won? I'm pretty sure that was him.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, that was him. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry,
yeah, very special. I like that card a lot.
I have no idea, Al. I was just playing along with you there. I have no idea.
I have to admit, I'm not a soccer expert, but I do love World Cup.
Yeah. Well, you're not alone. You're definitely not alone in that. Well, listen, we just hit the 2-hour mark, so let's wrap this up. Well, the professor wants me to show the Messi card again. I will, with the risk that you won't be able to hear me because it seems to my connection seems to falter when I screen share. But there it is for the professor to see. 21-22 Merlin Chrome UEFA Renaissance card. That is a very pretty card.
And I got that at the Calgary show.
Okay.
From Jamie.
Yeah. Oh, Jamie had it. Nice. I bought a card from Jamie at the Edmonton Expo. Very nice. Very nice. There you go, Professor. Hope that served what you needed. Well, Al, listen, it's been nice to have you on the episode, and I'll see you soon, I'm sure, and we're in touch, and so don't need a big long drawn out goodbye with you. What does Matt say? He says, "Thank you all for sharing some of your non-sports stuff we hadn't talked about before. Amazing show as usual. Have a great weekend, everybody." Thank you to Matt. Well. Thank you, Jeff McMahon, Professor. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mark Santucci. As was mentioned in the chat earlier, the Dallas Stars did win tonight, so they are now down 3-2 to the Las Vegas Golden Knights and going to Game 6. And I noticed the Celtics won their Game 6. They were down 3-0. They now won 3 in a row, and they're going to Game 7. That's against Miami. That's pretty amazing. They only won by 1 point tonight, and they were ahead by a lot. I was watching it on my phone. They were ahead by a lot more at times, and they won 104-103. And that series, the Miami faithful must be very nervous right now. Thank you, Lapper. Thank you, Name. Thank you, Professor. Thank you, Jeremy Fallow 5-ball. Al, let's wrap it up, guys. Back on tomorrow, as long as my mic is working, at 7:30 with Josh Madigan to cover the PWCC hockey auctions. And then Tuesday, taking stock with Dennis Zender, talking about buying the card or buying the grade. And then a week from today, Jimmy Mahan, pretty well-known guy in the hobby, if you're familiar with him and his Roadshow Cards franchise system. Sorry to hear that, Matt. Don't speak about the Celtics win. Well, sorry about that, buddy, but hey, that's what happened tonight. So good luck to you in Game 7. Al, we're going to sign off. So let you say a final word, and we'll end this.
Well, first of all, thank you to you, Jeremy, for inviting me onto your show and allowing me to share my passion for the hobby. And I really enjoyed it. The 2 hours just flew right by.
It really,
which shouldn't be surprising because our planning session was over an hour too. So,
well, we could just go for lunch and talk for 2 hours, no problem too. So,
shout out to all the people with the comments tonight. Really appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday night. And for now, this episode of Sports Cards Live is over. Good night, everyone.